So this time around for the build off, I'm going to be building a muscle car. Problem is, the only thing I have are modern muscle cars. And me being a Mopar guy, well, I've had this Challenger laying around for about 8 months. I guess I'm going to do something with it. So like usual, I'm just going to go through the box here to see what all we're... Wait a minute. Oh god, it's a curbside. Gross, I almost got that on me. Alright, all joking aside, I had actually done a full unboxing on this, and I plan to build it up. Now, being that this is for a competition, I really gotta step it up, and a curbside is just not gonna cut it. So I went to my favorite auction site, spent a little bit too much money, but I got this guy. I really had no idea just how rare and sought after this thing is, being that it is the only full detail Challenger out there. So yeah, just ignore that. We'll come back to that later. I just gotta double check to reassure myself. Yep, that is a big hole for an engine. This is gonna work. And there is a ton of plastic in this box, guys. Wow. Now, as I was saying earlier, what I usually do is I just rummage through the box real quick. Then I'll dive into each sprue a little bit deeper. Starting off with the body, first thing I've been doing lately is making sure there's no warpage in them. The body looks nice and straight, so let's address the actual problem here. This is not a mold seam, that is core shift. There is a legit about a 0.5 millimeter of overlap there. Now we got lucky, it's all on one long flat plane, so it'll be relatively easy to hide with some sanding. Aside from that, I like it, it's gonna work. There's just minimal flash, the panel lines are very deep. My only complaint is that the wipers are molded into the cowl. Yeah, I know it all gets painted black, but yeah. Looking at the chassis, this is going to work out very well. Everything is open and there's plenty of room to do what I plan to do with this. And Revell, thank you so much for listening and putting your molding mark on the inside where it's never going to be seen. And of course I spoke too soon, there is some branding right there. I was about to put this away, then I just realized that Revell actually paid attention to some of the details. This cross member here for the transmission, it's got 2 mounting bosses. This car came with both the 6-speed and the automatic. Being that this is in the rearmost position, I'm going to assume this is an automatic car. Now from here on out, it's going to be a bunch of sprues with just a few parts on them. Not a lot to this one, just the front rear seat backs, the center console, the overhead console, and then all the little bits for the center console. This looks like a lid, then we got the rear vents. I'm not sure what that other piece is, but well, we'll figure it out later. And here we got our steering wheel, we got a shifter, then a missing piece. All these bags are sealed, so I'm hoping that part's just kicking off down in the bag somewhere. And of course we got the door panels, or door cards as some people call them. The detail on those is nice and super deep. You guys, there's even map pockets on them. Can you guys see that? That's hollow down in there. And finally we have the dashboard. It's also got the nav unit stereo in it. The plan I have for this car, that's going to work out just fine. Now we do have some warpage here. Luckily it's just on the gates of the sprue. All the parts are in good shape. These two pieces were kind of tangled together, so we're going to look at them together. And I do have to note just how awesome it is that the rear seat is separate and not molded in. The build I'm going with does not have a back seat, so this is going to make this so much easier. And of course, it can't always be that easy. All the coolant tanks and ABS batteries, all that is molded in. The car I'm building does not have any of that, so I got to find a way to clean all that up. Now, we will not be using this back seat, but being that this is an unboxing, hey, this is what the back seat looks like. Instead, we will be filling all that with roll cage. I'm dropping all the hints here, guys. Do y'all know what I'm building yet? On this sprue, we have the inspection cover, the front struts. Below that, we have the rack and pinion. Then we have our hoses and the pulleys on the front of the engine. This is the stock air box, if you guys are into that kind of thing. We have our fans. And these look familiar. These are the fans I had just used on the square body build. And I had originally thought the fans came off that parts bin Viper I got out there in pieces. I guess not. And finally, we have a very small section of firewall. And again, small sprue with just a few parts. On this one, we got the rear springs, the rear shocks. I'm not quite sure what these guys are. At first, I thought they were the exhaust tips. This car had square exhaust tips, but those seem kind of dinky. I don't know what those are. This is a rear diff with the drive shaft built in. That is a grill for the front bumper. Then that big square right there, yeah, that's the radiator. And again, just a sprue with just a few parts. There is not a lot to it. We got the front K-member and the rear cradle. Since I'm dropping a lot of hints, yeah, this whole piece right here, we're not going to be using that. We got 3 parts on this one. Well, I guess 4, if you count the mirrors as 2 separate pieces. Here we have the RT style hood, the mirrors, and then the rear spoiler. Now, the bottom side of the hood's kind of rough. It's got a lot of the ejection pin marks. This one up front here is so bad, it's even got some flash on it. Look at that. Oh well, my heart's not broken. That stuff is so easy to fill and clean up that I'm not even worried. As long as that does not translate to sink marks on the hood, then we're going to be just fine. Not a lot to these sprues either. Basically, we got the front rear bumper assemblies. If you guys have been with me for the past 2.5 years, you know just how much I hate molded in mesh and screen. Luckily, that's kind of thin, so I have a plan. Let's just hope it works. Now, the rear bumper, it's got some extra body lines that are not supposed to be there. Next up, we have a whole sprue of parts that will not be used in this build. But we have the front and rear brakes. We got some little fiddly bits. That looks like an oil fill cap, an ABS unit. These are the hubs for either the front or rear. Not sure which is which. An evap canister, and I think this dinky little thing is supposed to be an oil filter. Oh yeah, in the middle, that is the catback portion of the exhaust. And here we have that beautiful 6.1 Hemi. And over here we have our quote-unquote tubular exhaust manifolds, which are basically headers from the factory. We got our oil pan, and then our transmission oil pan. Yeah, I knew it. This stubby little thing, that's a NAG 1 transmission. I knew it when I saw that cross member this was going to be an auto. Here we have the rest of the engine. These are the heads, the coil covers, the intake, the front cover with accessories. We have our exhaust. And then there we have the other half of the coil covers. And let's zoom in here. It's got the raised lettering on it. It says 6-1 Hemi and Hemi. I really hope we got some decals because I don't want to paint any of that small little detail. Oh wait, hey, we're not using this engine. On the chrome parts, we have our stock SRT wheels. Then right below that, we got kind of a cool set of aftermarket wheels. Alright, surrounding that, we have our rear view mirror. Then we have our exhaust tips. Yeah, those are definitely exhaust tips. We have the buckets for the headlights, tail lights, the fog lights, then our gas cap, and of course our side view mirror inserts. And as usual, Revell's chrome is super bright. It's so bright that it's almost unrealistic and toy-like, and I really look forward to stripping it off. Here we actually have a pretty decent set of tires. Other than being a little narrow, they look good. They got a good tread pattern, they're not too tall, they actually look to scale. Here we have the rear axle and a couple of screws. Yeah, interesting. Here we have our clear parts, and I gotta say, Revell, thank you for giving us some red tinted taillights. And I know I could just paint them, but, well, I like when I don't have to. The clear parts actually look real good. The frosting around the glass where the black trim goes, it is super noticeable. There's definitely going to be no mistaking of where to put our masking tape. It's all there though, front, back, side, headlights, tail lights, fog lights. The only thing I wish this had was the windows for the doors. Next up we have our decals, and there's a little crease that just kind of bisects at an angle there. If we were using these, I would be really disappointed. But we're not, so I don't care. Oh, cool. There are decals for that raised lettering on the quill covers I was talking about earlier. So really all I'm going to get use out of this is the gauges, the side markers, and a few of the badges. And the light hits it, there's another crease right there too. And finally we have our instructions. Now I'm going to kind of pull this up real close here so you guys could read about this car. If you want to read it, just pause it. Give yourself time to read. Other than that, we have our paint callouts, which we never use because we have reference photos with correct colors. Other than that, I'm just going to pan through all these steps here. If you guys want to look at them closer, again, just pause the video. Oh yeah, hey, if you guys remember that missing piece earlier, it was just broken loose in the bag. That is our steering column. And that is it as far as the unboxing goes. But there is still 3.5 minutes left of this video. Now if it wasn't apparent throughout the whole unboxing here, yes, I'm building the drag pack. For those of you not familiar with what this car is, the good people at Dodge got bored and said, you know what, we got something out there with 512 cubic inches. And, well, they just decided to stuff the Dodge Viper V10 in this thing. The only difference is they kind of unleashed this one a little bit. It was somewhere, quote unquote, around 900 horsepower. A few of these have made their way to a dyno. We've seen consistent 12 to 1250 to the wheels. I don't want to be made a liar, so since we have V10 decals, well, it only makes sense we put a V10 in it. Back to my favorite auction site, I scored this broken Dodge Viper for just a few dollars. It cost more to ship it than it did to buy it. It's worth it though, because I am getting the correct era V10 engine for this thing. Not to mention Dodge also reused some parts, including the Dodge Viper seats. So being able to recycle most of the parts from the Viper, it's going to be a big help. Now for the parts that I could not source, I got something else. And I can't just throw it up here because it's upstairs. It is long overdue, but I finally got me one of these things. I got it on a trade of sorts. I had rebuilt a transmission on the side of the road in 18-degree Kansas winter weather. In return for my $7,500 or so worth of labor, I got this $150 printer. I've had it for a few months now, just trying to figure out how to use it. I still have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm really just at the mercy of what I could download off of Cults 3D and those other websites. But here though, I got the proper 275 rear tires, I got the lightweight brakes, and these billet specialty wheels are the closest things that I could find to the drag pack wheels. They're not quite 100% match, but they're every bit at 95%. But yeah, this project has been in the plans for several months now. Some of my buddies, we were going to build the big three. One of them was going to do the Ford's Cobra Jet. The other one was going to do the Chevy Copo. And me being the Dodge guy, I'm doing the drag pack. And it's kind of weirdly timed that all this is coming together right now as it is. Mark Batson, he's building a drag pack too. He's doing one of the V8 cars. He is just a tiny tad bit further ahead than I am. So if you guys want to go check out one of the variations of this car, check him out. He's doing rather well on his build. Well, I'm going to get to building. You guys have a good night.